She entered the world beneath a sky heavy with storm clouds, as if creation itself hesitated before allowing her to breathe. Her birth was not celebrated, her name was not spoken, her existence was not welcomed. She was the daughter of Og, the last giant, the iron-boned king of Bashan, and a woman who had once sworn she would never bow to any man, let alone a giant. But war does not ask for permission, and conquest does not care for vows. Her mother was taken, not chosen, and from that union of force and fury, a child was born. Her mother named her Ariella, though she whispered it only in secret. To the world, she was simply the girl. To Og, she was little more than a curiosity, a reminder that even a giant could leave behind something that resembled a legacy. Ariella grew quickly, unnaturally, as if her bones remembered an ancient rhythm the world had forgotten. By the time she could walk, she walked with the weight of someone twice her age. By the time she could speak, her voice carried an echo that unsettled the servants. And by the time she could lift a blade, she lifted it with a strength that made even the soldiers of Bashan uneasy. Her mother taught her discipline. Og taught her dominance. The world taught her fear. She learned early that she was not like other children. When she laughed, people flinched. When she cried, the walls seemed to tremble. When she grew angry, the air itself felt heavier. And so she learned to hide her emotions, to bury her strength, to shrink herself into something the world could tolerate. But giants do not shrink, and the blood of Og does not sleep. Her mother tried to protect her, shielding her from the cruelty of the court, from the whispers of the soldiers, from the cold indifference of Og himself. But even a mother's love cannot silence the truth forever. Ariella was a hybrid, half human, half giant, a living contradiction, a reminder of a world that had been judged and destroyed. She was a child of two kingdoms, belonging fully to neither. And then, one day, everything changed. The news came like thunder rolling across the plains. Og was dead. The king of Bashan had fallen. The last of the Rephaim had been slain by the God of Israel. The kingdom erupted into chaos. Fear spread like wildfire. The people who once bowed to Og now trembled at the thought of his bloodline living among them. Ariella did not cry for her father. She barely knew him. But she felt something shift inside her, a weight, a pressure, a silent expectation. She was now the last living piece of a fallen giant, and the people of Bashan hated her for it. They blamed her for the curse of the giants. They blamed her for the wrath of Israel's God. They blamed her for the fear that gnawed at their hearts. Her mother tried to flee with her, but fear makes cowards bold. A mob formed, torches were lit, stones were gathered. Ariella watched as her mother fought to protect her, one woman against many, until the strength that had once defied a giant finally failed. Her mother fell. Her blood stained the stones. Her final breath was spent whispering Ariella's name, and something inside the girl shattered. She did not scream. She did not weep. She did not beg. She simply stood, silent and still, as the mob closed in. They thought she was a child. They thought she was weak. They thought she would die easily. They were wrong. Ariella did not remember the moment her power awakened, only the aftermath. The torches were extinguished, the stones were broken, the mob was gone, scattered, fleeing, or lying silent in the dust. And Ariella stood alone, her mother's body at her feet, her father's kingdom collapsing around her. From that day forward, she carried two things with her mother's name, and her father's fury. She wandered the wilderness of Bashan, growing stronger with each passing season. She learned to hunt with precision. She learned to fight with purpose. She learned to survive with a will that bordered on defiance. She heard stories of Israel, the people who had slain her father. She heard tales of Moses, the prophet who walked with fire and cloud. She heard whispers of a God who commanded the winds and the seas. And hatred began to grow inside her like a seed planted in the ashes of her childhood. But hatred was not the only thing that grew. Sometimes, in the quiet of the night, when the world was still and the stars watched in silence, she felt something else. Something she could not explain. A whisper, soft, steady, holy. It called her name, not with anger, not with judgment, but with a gentleness she did not understand. She ignored it. She buried it beneath her training. She drowned it beneath her rage. But the whisper did not leave. It followed her through the wilderness. It echoed in her dreams. It lingered in the silence after battle. And though she did not know its source, she feared it more than she feared any enemy. For the whisper did not call her to vengeance. It called her to something else, something she did not want, something she did not trust, something she did not believe she deserved. It called her to mercy. Ariella rejected it. She sharpened her hatred like a blade. She trained her body until it was a weapon. She vowed that one day she would stand before the people of Israel, the sons of Noah, the children of the God who killed her father, and she would make them remember the name of Og. But the whisper still followed, and deep inside her, beneath the layers of anger and grief, a question began to form, a question she refused to speak aloud. What if the God who killed my father is the only one who sees me? She did not know the answer. She did not want the answer, but the question followed her like a shadow. And so the daughter of iron walked into the world, not as a queen, not as a monster, not as a savior, but as a storm waiting to break. Her story was only beginning. Her path was not yet chosen. Her heart was a battlefield between vengeance and calling, and somewhere in the distance, the whisper of the living God waited for her to listen.